Season 3 of Time and Materials, a construction-only podcast that's powered by livecost.com, where we sit down with interesting people doing interesting things in construction. These construction experts kindly give us their time so that you can walk away with greater insights to make better day-to-day decisions in your construction career. Hello, you're very welcome to another episode of the Time and Materials podcast. This week I'm joined by Paddy Carroll, who's the Managing Director of Carroll Estimating. So we wanted to get someone on to chat about the current landscape around tracking of costs. Paddy has great services where he does management of tenders, he does procurement services, cost management, right through to the final accounts. So we dig into, tips on how small contractors can break into the high end of the market, how companies are managing with the labour shortages, and even some tips and risks, I suppose, that Paddy has seen, and some guidance around the biggest mistakes construction companies are making when it comes to managing the day-to-day construction costs. So sit back, enjoy, and I hope you get some value from my chat with Paddy Carroll, Managing Director of Carroll Estimating. Paddy, you're very welcome to the podcast. Great to finally, I will say, have you on. How's things?
Ciaran, it's brilliant, and thanks for inviting us on. Been watching your podcasts over the last while, and I said, will you ever get that invite? And here we are today, thank God.
Yeah, well, we had 4 cancellations, Paddy, so we're looking down the list.
I feel privileged now. Thanks very much for that, Ciaran. Yeah, you've made my day now.
All joking aside, now it's great to get you on. We've been thinking about putting pieces together for what next year might look like. So we were keen to get you on. We know you've got your finger on the pulse when it comes to dealing with, I suppose, a lot of different companies. So you've probably got a good sounding board there to what's happening on the ground out there. So before I even go into that, Paddy, let me go right back. Why QS? As your even skill, was there a driving factor to how you even ended up doing what you're doing today?
Well, believe it or not, my last degree was in services management, and I had an interview with a company for a service engineer for a contractor, and I went up for an interview. And as I was driving away from that interview, I got a call from a recruitment agency to say that there was a contractor, small to medium-sized builder down in Kilkenny, that was looking for a quantity surveyor. And I'd never talked about quantity surveying before, so I rocked down anyway to Kilkenny, and he started saying to me that he'd put me through college part-time and all. And I was after doing 3 years of college at this stage. So I said, another 3 years part-time. So that's 6 years of college. So I said, I'll go do it. So I came a QS or a junior QS in 2005, that was. And I was with that contractor for 14 years after that then. So he really schooled me from getting to the sites and getting on. But building has been in my family's background for generations. My dad was a foreman all his life. Got up at 5:30 every morning to go to Dublin, and the buildings just drew me, to be honest with you. But I tell you why I like the QS, because when I was just doing general operative works on site with mixing concrete or whatever we were at the time, I used to always see these lads coming into site in their suits and with the clipboard and a piece of paper and marking off stuff. And I said, them boys have it handy. And I said, I want to be one of them. So I always wanted to know, what did the QS do? But little did I know that it's not a handy job.
But they look clean.
They look clean. Yeah, and I said, them lads must be on loads of money. They used to just walk in for an hour and walk back out the door. And I said, sure, that's their job done now for the day. They don't have to worry about anything else. They're not shoveling concrete into a foundation. But anyway, we...
probably not working Saturdays either, I think.
Working Saturday. So then I came a QS. And that's when you really get to see what the throngs are. Look, I like the money aspect of it. I like to see a client's vision coming through. Obviously, I'm coming from a contractor's background, but we all have an interest to bring a product to a client's vision, So time, budget, and quality. That's what it's all about.
Thinking about that junior QS thing, I know, it's a similar background to yourself, family just embedded through construction. I went to the apprenticeship road, but there was definitely periods of time whereby you are definitely taken advantage of for as a cheap labour alternative right on site. Let's get a couple of apprentices in. 60% or 70% of the time will be labouring, and we'll show them how to hang a door maybe in a year or two. Right, so that I'm not sure what it's looked like. It's been a long time since I served my time, but that definitely went on in my day. Is there anything like that in QS? Is there any such junior QSs getting in and getting sort of taken advantage of? Do you think on that
Yeah,
side?
like to be honest with you, we have taken on our first apprentice now. Apprentice now. He's gone into his second year, so he was 18 years of age, had finished secondary school, had approached us. His family comes from a building background, and he approached us to come quantity surveyor. So obviously, I would have had the discussion with him to say, it's college life or it's working life. What do you really want to do? So he took the option of working 4 days a week and 1 day in college. So Jack, in fairness to him, has he's excelled at it, and he's with Carroll Estimating is one company up there of there's companies up there that have employees of 100 to 200 people in his class. And now the apprenticeship model, and I'll go back to about graduates and juniors quantity surveying. What I find is that you have to get to a site. There's if you're on a summer holiday and you can get working on a site as either a general labourer or just doing anything on a building site, even if it's QSing or whatever, if you can get, but getting to a building site and walking the sites each day and seeing how even a block layer lays a block, how long does it take a carpenter to lay a door or to put up a door? How long does it take the electrician to put up a light to mark out spots in a ceiling? Because when we walk onto a site, when I walk onto any site, no matter how big or small it is, I actually talk to the trades. I'm still learning today. I'm 42 years of age. I still learn. I don't know everything. Um, because I'm asking that block layer, how many blocks did you lay today? How many bricks were you laying a week there? Because that all comes back to time and money. So it's
Yeah.
very important. The young people out there, don't be stuck in an office. Get out.
Yeah. I mean, even with the business, then what was the driver there to start your own business? Like, just I mean, especially now, QS is there's good money to be earned, as you say, with some of the big firms. Like, why go out on your own?
Well, about 5 years ago, Kieran, I just seen the level of QSs just weren't coming out of colleges. Okay. And I said to myself, okay, there's an opening here that there is going to be a pinch point where there's not enough resources in the quantity surveying. But also, what was my spark was that no matter how small a contractor you are, I believe that you're entitled to have a contractor beside you. So our motto in my business is that we are a team of quantity surveyors and estimators for less cost than one QS employee. So we can actually give contractors, no matter what their turnover is per year, whatever, or their profit margin, whatever, that they have access to a team of quantity surveyors that act on their behalf. So we do the whole thing from tendering right up to final account, negotiations, to going out to getting procurement on their behalf. So if you're doing a pat for €10,000, the same principle applies to whether we're doing a multi-million euro data center in Frankfurt for one of the big companies. Now, the way we work is that we see, and I don't like using this phrase, but the man in the van, okay? That guy is probably looking, or that girl is looking after 3 or 4 jobs at one time. And they're trying to project manage those jobs, whether it's trying to get material on site, trying to get subcontractors on site, trying to deal with payment claims, trying to deal with final accounts, architects, design teams, clients, and the whole lot. That's a busy day. So what we're trying to do is for that smaller builder or medium-sized builder, you don't have to employ a QS and pay big money for them. You can come to us. You can either dip in or dip out or pay a retainer fee where we come to you. We're there every month for you behind you. And we'll do the quantity surveillance stuff for you. So we don't have to be coming home at even time. And, you're losing out on family time then. For the
Mhm.
medium and large size contractors, some of these have commercial teams. They have quantity surveyors. But they can only do so much. One person can only do so much. So if you're a QS and you're the only QS in a company, you have to tender and you also have to watch the management of the money on a site. And it's very hard to do both of those if you've got a multiple amount of jobs. So we actually come in to help those QSs and come in and help those commercial teams, whether it's a measurement of a project or checking a measurement, or maybe there's something wrong with it. There's a clause within the contract that that someone is asking a query on, and we help to guide them along. So we've introduced a hybrid model into our company. So we've surveyors all over the country. So we do working for us. So we've 8 at the moment, and we're hoping to get to 10 now in the next probably couple of weeks. So we've just put up an advert there
So
today for a senior QS.
if I'm a small to medium size contractor and maybe I'm not winning work, can I send you the tender? Will you like what stage you step in? And I suppose you're
We
saying
want to
that
step in the minute the architect, engineer, or PQS has sent you that tender. That comes to us. We want to have a look at that from day one. So we will actually look at that, and it all depends. If we retain our clients, we just fire ahead. But if it's on a fee proposal, obviously we send across our costs, and it's up to the builder then if they want to go ahead or that. But what we do is when we're rating that bill of quantities, we go out to the market for them on their behalf. Now, um, what we find is that during the recession here, and after the recession, we found that contractors got embedded with their supply chain. So it was the one electrician, it was the one plumber, it was the one carpenter, it was the one this, and they haven't broadened out. And unfortunately, when you go out to the market and you're trying to get a new contractor in board with you, it's very hard because they're sussing you out.
yeah.
Say, right, who are you and why are you coming to me now? So you're trying to build relationships, and that's what we try to do as well. So what we're bringing now with contractors is we've put another aspect to our business is that we are actually building brands now for small and medium sized contractors. So they're trying to get onto tender lists with architects, and architects and through with architects due diligence, an architect is just not going to put you onto a tender list if they don't know you, because they want to see even your skirting detail on €1 million house. That detail, that joint has to be 100%. So they're not going to let any willy nilly tender that job. But to get in with those crowds and clients, you've got to do your work. You can't just send a picture of a manhole or of a brick. It's no good. You've got to
So
make that
what would
report.
you what would you recommend there? I mean, we deal with a lot of the guys that are in the high end, right? When I say the high end, they're working in the right parts of town. The jobs are, as you say, probably multi-million homes, and they're what we'd call in the game. They're a nice project, right? They're a nice project, right? They've got a bit of meat in them, and we're going to make money on this, and the finishes are nice, and what we call a nice project. But if I'm not breaking into that, as you say, it's there's a branded aspect to this to be thought about. What would you recommend there I start thinking about to try and break into that like upper end of the market?
So the first thing is why. Why are you doing it? Okay. Um, you're not in it to be a charity. You're in the business to make money. That's no different to your business, Ciaran, and my business. I'm in the business. If I don't make money, if we don't make profit, the guys won't be employed here. So if you're putting in all that time and effort and you want to get in the door, you are the brand of your company. So you've got to build that rapport, you've got to build that relationship, you've got to meet the clients, and you've got to meet the architects. At the end of the day, the architect is the first person that usually gets the call to say, I want to design something or I want to go for planning. And if you're not at the table or talking to that architect and saying, look, here's my portfolio, like here's my story about me, about who I am and what we are about. Here are my supply chain. Here's what I work with, and here's the previous projects I've worked with. So there's no point in if you're the guy or the girl contractor that's been doing extensions for 200 grand and you want to move up to the 500 grand, you've got to show how you were able to go up that, because your credit terms change. Everything changes because your turnover changes, and then your credit terms to your suppliers changes as well. So you've got to make sure that you're okay to pay for all this stuff. You know.
What's been the most difficult part? Like I think you mentioned there 5 or 6 years ago. What's been the most difficult part of the getting the business off the ground, getting the wheels turning, as you say now, having a group and a remote team of quality surveyors across, and it's a great operation you have going. Like what's been the most difficult part of that journey, do you say? And you've also had a pandemic in the middle of that, I'm sure, which was not ideal.
The biggest part was to be honest with the hardest part was identifying software that can drive on our business. Okay. There is so much estimating and quantity surveillance software out there around the world, and to pick one can be quite difficult. And you've got to look at is there going to be an ROI? Is there going to be a return on investment? And that was difficulty when we started off, but we did choose a company. They're an Australian company. Now we have moved 5 years later. We have invested quite heavily into a new software They're a UK-based company. That's being rolled out in the next couple of months. I will say resources, finding the right quantity surveyor is it can be tough. And I'll tell you the reason why. We're an all-round company, so we don't just do buildings, Kieran, or refurbs. We do rail, we do heavy civils, we do studs and partitions, we do data centers and the whole lot. So sometimes when we're sitting across from a senior quantity surveyor, the hard questions do be asked. Do you still measure, or what types of projects have you been on? And sometimes when a lot of these surveyors go into a company that just does residential, they won't know stuff about heavy, about I know about marine stuff. They won't know stuff about fit outs or data centers. So it's very hard to find that balance at the moment. And plus, as you said, and that's why we try to offer cheaper services. Senior quantity surveyors are not cheap, Kieran. They're not cheap, and the packages now can be quite high, and
Did
obviously the bigger companies can afford those.
did did COVID have much of an impact on that growth, or like did that? I mean, did you have to let people go, or were you able to sort of work through all that?
No, I didn't, because at that stage it was just me and Tom. So
Right.
Tom was being my right hand man since day one, really. No, we just kept tipping away with our builders. We were working with micro builders. We moved from micro to small builders, and your name starts to get around the place. Now during the pandemic, you'd be surprised the power of picking up the phone to your competitors years ago when I was working for a contractor, and you said, look, we're doing X, Y, and Z. Would you be interested in us doing a bit of a measure for you or whatever? And while that was going on, there was tenders were still coming in, Kieran, at the time. We were doing the measurements for them and doing the tenders, and hopefully when the pandemic finished, they were ready to start the job. And obviously then what started then was the crack with the material and resources and all that. And that was another challenge. So yeah.
Do you think we're out of it? Do you think like the industry has seen the full impact of COVID, or is there still a bit of shaking of the trees to happen?
I don't have a crystal ball, but material has come back. But our problem now is resources. We need 300,000 houses built today. We just don't have the workforce. And let's call a spade a spade. If your two houses were beside each other and you were getting more money in house A than you were to house B, guess which house you're going to go to work in? And that's the way lads look at it, and that's the way lads operate it. I will say that on the material end, timber has come back, steel has come back, but who knows? There's geographic pressures in the world at the moment. If oil goes up, a lot of material will go up straight away. Again, you've got to watch your clause. I see too many times blue forms of contract coming into our door, or into our inbox. You've got to see why they're either striking out clause 36, and you've got to ask why they've submitted a bill of quantities with a blue form of contract. You've got to ask why is the builder taking the risk of these quantities, and we find that's where we give our opinion to the builders before we submit back the tender.
Yeah, who is you mentioned there going from micro to and I definitely want to understand the resource question on that one as well. But like, who today, Paddy, would be your typical client, right? What's the typical client
So
looking for you?
we'll just call them our bread and butter. Our bread and butter is a small contractor that has 5 projects on the go. We'll call them, the majority of these companies are management companies. They're no different to John Sisk and all these kind of companies. They're actually subcontracting everything out. They might have 4 or 5 general operators themselves that tip around that can do the hard grafting work, the concrete work, and all that. And then they have a QS like ourselves in the background, and it's just themselves, and they're driving around from site to site.
And what are like, how are they dealing with that? Like you're saying, like resources, massive issue out there, right? We've no idea what's coming next either. Housing targets most likely ain't going to be met for no other reason other than the resources aren't there.
Hmm.
How are companies thinking about that? Like, does that put them cautious when going for tenders? Are they, not just going for tenders off the back of, I don't think we're going to have the resource to pull that off? Like, what are you seeing out there from a company perspective?
Yeah, I will say that, look, we're coming to 2024. Christmas time, this time of the year is our busiest time of the year in business. And this is the reason why, because architects have got their planning through, and now they want to start getting a contractor on board to start in either mid-January or end of January. and contractors are obviously looking for work. So now it starts to get very competitive, because if you don't have the workload come January or the middle of January, the contractors might have to let people go, and we don't want to do that, because once you let them go, anyone go, it's very hard to get them back. You know what I mean? What I will say is that we've noticed that tenders do fly in through the door into contractors now, right? You've got to pick and choose to say, right, is this the right one for me, or if it's not the right one for me? Because there's no point in going down a rabbit hole if the money is not going to be in it. If you're not going to make a margin, or your overhead's going to be covered, etc. So we ask all our contractors, we actually go down to the nitty gritty. What is the overhead of your company? What's your percentage? So some of the contractors are kind of going, oh my God, why are you asking me these questions? But these are very important for tendering, because if you're tendering 20 projects in a year, but you're only really going to win 5, you've got to put that cost back through the tenders, and that's the way it works. I will never say, we often get asked here in Carroll Estimating, what's your strike rate? And I always say 100%, but you lose money. you know, so it all depends. There's so many factors involved, and I see with the blue form of contract, when we get the call back to say that you were second or third and you were 15% out or 10% out, to me it's just in the sky.
Yeah.
There's no cohesion. There's no like for like tender process on the blue form.
So when it comes to pricings, let's say, and even into the general cost tracking then on a day to day, which is sort of our world then, like, what are the biggest mistakes companies make, do you think, that is eating into their margin? Like,
doing things on a whim, not being organized. So say for instance, there's a big massive roof to be done or whatever, and Friday you decide, oh my God, I've got to fucking order this timber, and you leave it to the last minute, and you say, right, I'm going to go down to whoever the merchant it is, and I'm just going to buy the timber there. Whereas if you went out a couple of weeks beforehand and got your 3 quotes, you'll see a difference. Instead of going to the same merchants all the time or the same supplier or whatever, we always say on a tender stage, we go out for 3 prices on everything. And I've been schooled that way from day one when I started with the building contractor down in Kilkenny. And with that, and I'll just give an example, a sheet of mesh, right, A142 mesh. So if you're getting, I'm only throwing it out, if one guy is €25 a sheet, another guy is 28, and another guy is 30. But you're going to go back to the cheapest guy and you're going to save yourself €6 a sheet. And if you've got 1,000 of those, that's $6,000.
Do you have a threshold of like, because we're starting to see that a lot, even with our own customer bases, is that like the companies, the management in the companies, and there's similar sized companies, are saying nothing goes out the door above $1,000, let's say, that doesn't have 3 quotes attached to it. Like, are you seeing anything like that out there?
No, I tell you what I do see. Nominated contractors and suppliers. Okay. And this is a difficult one, because the contractors are contracted into a contract, right? And the client wants windows, they want a kitchen, they want the tiles, and they want the bathroom ware, the floor, and whatever. And what's happened is that the builder is paying up front for those. There's no retention, no discounts, no nothing whatsoever. So what happens is the client actually isn't going around and getting best value for money. They're just going, oh, I love that floor there. That floor in there is €100 square meters. And I'm just going to buy that floor in there. And there's 1,000 square meters in it. And it's going to cost me €100,000. Where if that shifts back to the builder will actually go out, get his 3 samples of floor and show you the different cost rates and can save you money on it,
Yeah. And is there enough of that happening, do you think? Or is it a case that the builder just knows, this is tight, I need to get out of here. And therefore, when it comes to the finishing, they want out. I mean, are you seeing more of turnkey at this stage, or is builders finish, get out and get on to the next one?
Like the builders we work with, it's 95% is turnkey. At the end of the day, we want the builders that we work for, thank God, they want to go in, they want that person coming into we call it a castle, right? It's their castle. And when they open that door, they're just coming in to sit down in a couch or into their kitchen and boil a kettle. And what it all extends to, and this is about relationships, Ciaran, when the client that you've worked with and built this beautiful home or refurbed a beautiful home for them, when their friends come in or their family come in and they go, oh my God, who did this for you? and they go, well, Joe Blogg's builder did it for me. Well, guess what? Joe Blogg's builder is going to get a call to see if he'd be interested in doing their friends. And that's how it, in Ireland is so small. We actually all know each other, either directly or indirectly. Someone knows someone within somewhere. And that's how it operates. And that's how your name gets around. But going back to the yoke of marketing and branding, you, word of mouth is fine, but you've got to show, if you're trying to get those architects, you've got to produce a kind of like a story brand book for yourself,
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned the magic ball there, so let me put you on the spot then. What do you think the industry looks like for 2024?
More competitive. What we're seeing is that architects were sending out 5 to tenders to 5 contractors. They were getting back maybe 2 or 3 prices. We're starting to see the 4 or 5 prices are going back. Okay. I will say that contractors that are in we'll say the houses or refurbs or anything that's over $500,000, they're being more cautious of who the client is, because believe it or not, just because a tender comes out, a contractor is actually is looking or seeing who you are as well. Do you know what I mean? It's not just you looking at them. The contractor is actually looking at you and looking, who is the design team on this job? Do you know? So it's a two-way street. What we've noticed as well, we do a lot of negotiating. So sometimes clients or architects will come to us directly to say that this client had a friend or a daughter or a family member, and the builder did such and such. Would they mind coming up and walking the site with us? We're planning to do this, and that's where we come in, and we advise them to say, they might say to us their budget I'm just saying 200,000, but it has a zinc roof on it. And we'll go to them, look, lads, the zinc roof is going to cost you €300 a square meter. Can you not just go back to slates or back to tiles? But we're advising the architect as well to say, the people want their castle, but they can't afford that. So bring it back. And look, I'll always say this, and I say this to anyone. There is always a deal to be done. Always. A builder will do their best. If a builder wants that job, he will do his best to get it.
Yeah. So more competitive, more any risk of the whole thing falling asunder, just literally just going to sharpen up. That's what you feel.
Here, let's not talk about put ourselves into recession. No, and I hear too much negativity out there at the moment. No, drive on. We've too much building to do in this country. What I will say, it is expensive to build. There's no doubt about it. It's expensive to build, but there is ways to work around. There's so many methods of construction now. There's timber frame, there's traditional, there's ICF, there's lightweight gauge steel. It's endless. Insulations, finishes. There's the products, and you only know this with your own software. The amount of products out there is just phenomenal. But you just got to be careful of the costs, because and not only just careful of the cost, advice. You've got to get sound advice, and I see too many. We have a lot of couples that ring us, and the first thing they say to us is, I'm going self-build. Okay. And that to me is a big red siren going off. Self-build is not for the faint-hearted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the reason being is that you now have put yourself in the position of being the project manager of that job. And let's tell the truth. The ground worker don't care about the block layer. The block layer don't care about the lads putting on the concrete. And the concrete fella don't care about the roofer. And the roofer don't care about the plumber. And the plumber don't care about the electrician. Yeah. But when you have a builder that's on top of the pyramid, and it's on his neck, or it's on his, it's on his reputation, that means he puts all the ducks in order, and that's how buildings go very smooth. And you'll be surprised. And we get asked this question, or I ask this question a lot to self-build people. I say, how much are you saving? Right? Nobody has given me the answer yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody.
Massive amount of risk is I've seen a lot of it in Australia. And again, that question, you'd have to ask that question: is the risk worth the reward? And if they don't understand the reward at the end of it, you're going in blind. I think it's a nice idea to say, oh, we built this ourselves and we were involved in every decision. But at the end of the day, like, I remember even just pulling my own place apart and doing a small extension even for myself. like me being in the game, stress levels involved with it, even doing anything in your own house, even when someone else is doing it. Yeah, I'd be on your side and questioning.
Yeah, look, I'm in the game as well. You know, if you're a carpenter, if you are in the game, it's obviously it's easier because you know the fellas. But if you're not in this game, it is not an easy game because it's Ciaran, it's tough. You know this. It's a tough game we're in, but I enjoy it. I get up every morning. I love coming to work. You know, now obviously I own my business, but I have to ask the lads about whether they love coming. But they're still here after years with me. So I've a very loyal employees, and you know, I wouldn't be here talking to you, Ciaran, today without those. You know,
and going from strength to strength as well. If anyone wants to reach out to you, Paddy, about potential tenders or just to get a bit of a deeper understanding about what sort of services that you're offering there, where's the best place to find you?
So I get a lot of comments about this because people are actually getting sick of looking at me when they turn on their phone every morning now. So the first port of call is Instagram. That's where I've started off my channel. So at Carroll Estimating, you'll see plenty of pictures. But we also give tips and tricks and secrets there in that, Ciaran. Very good tips for contractors to not go in with your eyes closed on any contract, you know. The second part, and we've just gone on to LinkedIn there in the last couple of weeks. So we're very active on LinkedIn now. And the third thing then is our website. So www.carrollestimating.ie. And and all the social channels. And you'll soon probably get sick of listening to me talking, but I'm out there to represent contractors no matter what size you are. It doesn't matter to us as a company. We just have your back. And the most important thing is that you're not leaving money on the table.
We will link those up as well in the show notes as well, so people can find them easy as well. Paddy, listen, appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, and it was great to finally have you on.
No bother, Ciaran. Listen, appreciate that. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, Paddy.
Cheers.
Time and Materials is brought to you by Livecost, the construction software fully designed to manage your construction financial forecasts. Visit livecost.com to take a product tour or reach out to our team of construction cost experts to transform your project profits. Any links mentioned during this episode, including speaker profiles or any other resources, are available on the podcast show notes. Your feedback is also welcome. We would really appreciate if you could take a moment to leave us a review or email your comments, guest suggestions to hello@timeandmaterials.com. Finally, if you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for listening. Until next time, I'm your host, Ciaran Brennan.